Weekend for the Republican Party. Ronna McDaniel winning re-election for Republican National Committee chair in a race that grew contentious and amplified divisions over the party's direction. Former President Trump kicking off his 2024 campaign with events in New Hampshire and South Carolina. And on the way, definitely spoke about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his response to COVID.
And he closed Florida. Yeah, Florida was closed. There are Republican governors that did not close those things. So I don't know. I mean, he's changed his tune. But that's up to him.
Okay there. Niall Stanage is here from the White House, from the Hill, covering the White House. Hi. Some of the president's or former president's comments this weekend about Ron DeSantis, one that he's rewriting history. What does that mean?
The Trump charge is that DeSantis is trying to make himself seem as if he was more opposed to things like lockdowns or vaccines than was actually the case. And in fairness to the former president, he has a point there. Florida did go into lockdown at Governor DeSantis' behest in April 2020. Governor DeSantis was initially a big advocate of vaccinations, though not of mandates. But the broader picture, Adrienne, is one where the Trump team, and I know this from my own conversations, believe that DeSantis is getting a little bit of a pass, that he has sort of become flavour of the month and hasn't been subject to the kind of scrutiny that would inevitably come if he does enter the presidential race.
Yeah, interesting, because, there are so many people who are convinced that DeSantis is, the headliner, the main event when it comes to someone who is anti-vaccine, anti-COVID restrictions. His advisors are preparing for a potential 2024 run, even though he's not officially confirmed he will. There are some hypothetical polls showing that he leads Mr. Trump for the candidacy. And then you've got New Hampshire GOP Governor Chris Sununu saying he's weighing a 2024 run of his own, which, I mean, realistically, a very interesting time for the Republican Party. So how do we think this is going to play out? I mean, when are we going to get an official announcement from DeSantis?
I would anticipate one coming in the next 2 to 3 months. There have been reports that he is looking at who to hire, that his preparations are definitely moving forward. I was amused by your realistically comment about Chris Sununu, because you're right, there's no realistic appetite for a Chris Sununu kind of candidate. I mean, the party has just shifted from a party that nominated, say, Mitt Romney in 2012. Someone like Mitt Romney would get crushed now. But Governor DeSantis is a different type of candidate, a much more populist candidate. He would obviously be the most serious rival to former President Trump if he got into the race.
In terms of education reform, we've seen this as a major focus of the Republican Party, but this is perhaps the first time that we're seeing the former president highlight it so directly in these campaign speeches. So including the critical race theory discussion that we keep on having, he's actually asking for federal funds to be cut from any school that includes critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content to our children. It calls for opening a civil rights investigation into any school district that has engaged in race-based discrimination, particularly against Asian Americans, and promises to keep men out of women's sports. Of course, that is a comment about the transgender athlete debate. So do you believe, this isn't a surprise at all, but do you believe this is going to be something that helps former President Trump in terms of getting that presidential bid?
I think it is in terms of the Republican nomination, at least. Education has become such a potent issue, not just for Republicans, but I think for everyone from the centre ground over to the right. Now, that's an issue that Governor DeSantis has been strong on and has executive power to enact things about. It's interesting to me that former President Trump is emphasising these issues and coming up with proposals that would go even further than DeSantis. Another one of Trump's ideas is that parents should be able to directly elect school principals. Education has become this nexus of so many different issues. There was the wokeness debate, the issues about sexuality and gender identity that you mentioned. And a lot of this, I think, Adrienne, goes back to the height of the pandemic, when so many children were being schooled at home. Parents saw what they were being taught, and that, I think, ignited a lot of concerns, especially among more conservative-minded parents.
Niall Stanage from the Hill, thank you very much. I appreciate us continuing this conversation, because we're going to keep talking about it, especially as we advance to 2024. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.